Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Great to have you in on a Thursday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark in the main studio. He sprinted from down the hall after doing news here locally. And, Junior's been home all day because it's a snow day. About 8.5 inches here in Lincoln. I know Omaha got backhanded a little bit with some snow, and same with central Nebraska. No fun, man. But at least it's thawing and melting and all that good stuff. It should be an all right weekend.
Dude, both my roommates, also one of my roommates is a public school teacher here with LPS, so as I'm getting ready to go do the morning show here locally on KFR with Schmidt this morning, my roommate gets the call, school's not happening, so he's chilling, and he goes, "What are you doing up?" "Oh, I'm going to work." "Thank you very much." And then I get home and learn that my other roommate also took the day off. So it's just been me working. My roommates are at home playing the new Harry Potter game and just generally having a good time, and I'm at work, and I go, man, life ain't fair. But then I realized that my job is talking about the Huskers on the radio, and I go, you know what? Maybe life's not that bad.
So hold on a minute. Okay. Tell me about this Harry Potter game. Is it like Legend of Zelda? I'm dating myself. I'm the old crusty guy in the room. Forgive me, but what is it? It's an open world role-playing game. That sounds wrong.
You're getting judged.
Do you know what Skyrim is? Do you know what Skyrim is?
No, I don't.
I've heard of it.
It's a role-playing game.
No. So you are a wizard inside Hogwarts.
Like a dog.
You are a wizard inside Hogwarts, and you're going through your education while trying to fight the dark forces. And I need to stop.
Fantastic start.
Basically, PC culture has tried to cancel the game because of J.K. Rowling, and one of my roommates got it anyway, and I can confirm it's a very fun game. I've been enjoying the hell out of it, and I was quite disappointed whenever I am working and they're just sitting at home playing Harry Potter.
So, with these roles you play...
Okay.
I'm serious. What? I'm going to be a dude that can turn an apple into a sledgehammer? That type of magic? I've never seen any of the Harry Potters.
Yeah, you're already behind the 8 ball there. And it's more about like dueling and fighting evil magical way.
All right. So it's just it's a violence game.
Yes and no. A family friendly game where
it's just fine. I'm not trying to paint you as like this guy who sits in front of a gaming system for hours.
Oh no, that's my roommate. That's not me. I can't do that.
Wow, just way to throw him under the bus. I mean, geez.
No, it's just like.
Well, I like how you said it wasn't me. It was my roommates were playing. I was working, and good for you.
We each have a character. We each have a character we're playing, and they're much further along than me because again,
I'm no different. When I was in grade school or even in college, we'd play Bill Walsh college football after the bars closed. Or growing up, it'd be Ken Griffey Jr. baseball or Tecmo football or even Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I mean, that's 35 years ago, but that's kind of what we did. And I get it. Gaming's huge and streaming's fun, and good for you and your friends that are role-playing.
Okay. Man, you had me going there for a second, too. I'm like, he's actually being nice to me here. And then, no, we're back to role-playing. But... I can say I'm usually a sports game guy. This is a bit of a change of pace for me. I've been enjoying it, but I will say anyone out there, I will beat anyone who wants it in FIFA 23.
I have retired from gaming because we had the Wii when Junior was young, and he ended up shaking me down. He'd bet, and he'd beat me in tennis. So, hey, good to be with you here on Hail Varsity. You can stream the show. Check us out. The Hail Varsity YouTube channel, and then Hail Varsity Radio's Twitter handle as well, where you can watch the show at H Varsity Radio. Can also jump on Facebook and Twitter, KFOR, Facebook and Twitter, if you want to watch the show that way. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240, or 800-825-5865. Can email the show, Chris at HailVarsity.com. 20 minutes away, Brandon Vogel will join us. And in hour 2, will set up shop with great Husker and World Series champ Joba Chamberlain. He'll get us kicked off at 5 o'clock, get Joba's take on the season, maybe get some anecdotes as well from his time in the majors with just unique behavior. Not his some of his teammates, similar to your roommates and the games they're kind of into. I'm behind the 8 ball and dated and archaic with what is new and trending with the video game system. I don't think Junior plays video games that much anymore. Nebraska going old school when it comes to how they're approaching spring football and how winter conditioning is going. And guys, when we talk about Nebraska football, what are some questions we have about spring football for Nebraska? There's a myriad of questions. Good sit down. We talked with Evan Bland of the World Herald yesterday. We'll get Brandon Vogel's take today and Brady Altman's tomorrow on spring ball moving forward. But a good sit down by the World Herald with Coach Rule. And, Nebraska has a lot of things to answer. So when I say, what are the spring football questions in a good write-up by The Athletic on each team's issue for spring football, the key question is what can Nebraska realistically get done between now and April? And April 24th. What can they get done between now and then? Well, first and foremost, they're going to figure out who wants to be here. They're going to figure out who's meeting the new standard. And guys, it's a setup of, I'm not going to run you off, Elijah. I'm not going to run you off, Connor. But this is how things are going to be moving forward. Do you fit? It's a choice, and you've got to earn the right to stick around, but I'm not going to show you the door. If it doesn't work, if it's not a fit, you'll know it, I'll know it, and you'll move on. So that's to me, that's the way to go about it. Set the standard, get guys in, meet the standard. If you don't, we'll help you get out.
Or, I mean, we'll help you find a way to pay for something. Matt Rule kind of alluded to that in the interview with the Omaha World Herald too, is like, this is a new era of college football, and I might have to be creative with how we allocate some NIL funds in order to stay under that 85-man scholarship limit as well. And I remember saying a couple of months ago, I wasn't sure if this new staff would try to incorporate that, because you have to be wise with your NIL funds when you're trying to build a team. And you sit there and you go, well, does this kid that we think is, at the bottom of the barrel in terms of our scholarships and is going to be on his way up but wants to play here, do you give him the NIL money to be able to stick around here, or do you help him find it? Sounds like Matt Rule is not going to be the type of guy that wants to kick dudes off the team, quote unquote. He's going to try to find that NIL opportunity, but it's also important to note you do have to be responsible with those NIL funds. It's not like there's a never-ending stream of NIL money, though sometimes it does feel like it with how college football is working nowadays.
I think Nebraska is in a great spot. They have money for their student athletes. They're going to be competitive. They're going to win a lot of those battles, but you just can't spend. I mean, you're talking like a drunken sailor.
I mean, for an out-of-state student
to keep kids around.
For an out-of-state student, tuition plus room and board, and I think Connor can speak on this, is somewhere in the range of $40,000 a year.
Yeah, a little bit less.
A little bit less. It depends if you're a student living off campus, living in on-campus housing, which on-campus housing you're living in. That all kind of varies, but we're talking somewhere in that range of $40,000 a year.
Yeah, I mean, it also obviously depends on. You said living.
Do I get a Jeep?
I wish. I mean, I could use that right about now, actually. But we kind of had this conversation the other day, Elijah, about with Mitch, with the number of players that you have, and that's one of my bigger questions in spring ball as well, is how many people leave, and what does this roster look like heading into the summer? Because there's still a lot of decisions to be made. We've talked about the QB room throughout the offseason as well. How many guys are going to stay in that group as well? That's one of my bigger questions is, all right, what's this roster going to look like going into the summer? And then, you kind of get into stages. We also talked about the chapters of the season. You have spring ball, summer ball, fall ball. So it'll be interesting to see, how many people stick around, how many guys leave, whether that's because they found a scholarship opportunity elsewhere or they just found more playing time elsewhere. that'll definitely be something to look out for.
In my mind, the most unsustainable position group on the team right now in terms of how many scholarships they have or that are in use right now versus how many they probably should have is that defensive back room. You have more defensive backs than offensive linemen, and I think that's going to be a situation that is more likely to sort itself out as the year goes on, as opposed to something where the coaching staff's going to have to step in. I think whenever you have, 18 guys vying for 4 spots in that secondary, that eventually some guys that end up 3rd, 4th in the depth chart through spring ball are going to say, oh, you know what, this is not the best opportunity for me. That's a situation that's going to work itself out. But that's the defensive back room is one that I'm looking, and I have my ears on the ground in terms of who's going to be out of that room come spring, because that's the one I see it's probably going to have a lot of attrition, because it just doesn't make sense in the modern college football to have that many defensive backs on your roster.
I think you need 10. I mean, 10 to 12 is the number. How about quarterback numbers, right? Questions I have. What type of impression is Sims going to make? What type of hurdle is going to be real for Casey Thompson to retain the job? You don't lose your job due to injury, but you can lose your job due to system. And I think he's a really talented quarterback, Casey Thompson. He's won some ball games. He's tough as all get out. So I think he's a guy that could really do well in the RPO. He's a good pocket guy. He's made positive impressions. He's played and won at Texas. He's played and won in Nebraska. You also have Logan Smothers. What's his future look like? Both are on the injury side of things right now, and they're going to miss spring. But you also have Torres, a guy that Rule and his staff are familiar with from being in Texas. You still have Hoiberg from Kearney. That guy's got all the physical tools. And from a development standpoint, man, it'd be fun to see him get developed under this staff. So what's the real number of scholarship quarterbacks you keep? And at what point is the race tight? At what point is the race closed? And at what point do you decide to move forward? And this is all down the timeline, I understand, but you want to give Casey Thompson and Logan Smothers, you want to see them do what you ask them to do, all the while still having Sims, and they've sure talked him up, and I get it. They like him. They've got great confidence in his athleticism. They believe he can be an NFL guy. He's a stud dual threat guy, and I think they believe they can even improve what his passing numbers were at Georgia Tech. You have quarterbacks that have been hurt. Your 3 most experienced quarterbacks have all missed a lot of time or just have one start in Logan Smothers' case. So that's, to me, my biggest. It's not as important as the offensive line. I think we're all in agreement that the offensive line's the question, the key. Teddy's out with a shoulder, so what do you do at tackle? You lost Hunter Anthony, or at least he's not on the roster anymore. So there's that, but you have tackle options. But to me, it's quarterback. I mean, 4 to me is the number you got to have. That you want one in the hopper you're working with that has years. You've got 2 years for Sims. You've got 1 more year with Casey. And then you have Logan Smothers that is gritty and can be a real threat in the run element side of things. And Sims can be a run threat with this quarterback. Running back room, there's talent there. How often are you going to use 2 running backs, a 2-back setup? You used it at Temple. You used it at Baylor. You want a fullback. Is there a guy on the roster that's a running back that can moonlight as a fullback for you if you want to go I formation or offset I? Those are some of the questions I have, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I think Nebraska's in a good spot with having 3 doable quarterbacks. I think Nebraska's in a really good spot with having 3 backs they can feel really comfortable about. I think the wide receiver room will shake itself out. I think the offensive line can really thrive. And I think there's positive words by Coach Rule. I think Coach Raiola being back will help them move forward. And with Satterfield, they're all going to be on the same page. So they'll find what this O-line can be good at. They just need some health.
One last position group, I guess while we're talking offense, that tight end room is a little bit saturated right now. You have, 8 guys. 8 guys in a tight end room where you're going to get 1 or 2 tight ends on the field in a given season, maybe a third. That's a room that I look at. And whenever you factor in walk-ons as well, I think you're up to 10 dudes in that tight end room. I think that's going to be another place where I think competition through the spring is going to sort that situation out.
I totally agree. I mean, you're interested in where Fedoni is at, high-level talent. I think Rollins is a guy they got some upside and hope for sure. And I mean, what type of relationship can be formed moving forward with your new tight ends coach? And can he be somebody that gets a ton out of your tight end room? Because we know that, I mean, you got a former 5-star that's at 6'5", 280, right, at the tight end spot. You've got Chris Hickman that's been around for a long time, but Gilbert's a guy that you're hoping the best for because, man, you just drool based on what you saw that freshman year. James Carney's a sophomore. Fedoni's coming back. Gilbert is somebody that you're anxious about. And how is things with Wager going to mesh? And I think Wager, being the high school guy he is somebody that'll really get the best out of that entire room. Yeah,
and I've fallen the majority of Husker fans here too. We got to see Fedoni cut it loose one of these times. I think
just stay healthy. I think he's ready to cut it loose. Brandon Vogel's with us. Hail Varsity continues, presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbelessence, at C_Clark_27. What? Two underscores?
Two.
I like it. It's excessive. It's like I don't know, trying to stitch Steinkühler on the back of an Orange Bowl jersey. Much excess there.
Yes.
Speaking of lots of books behind Brandon Vogel. If you're watching the show, can do so. Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Brandon Vogel with us from Hail Varsity, managing editor at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Vogues, is that a hat from The Natural you're wearing?
No, this is a Nashville Sounds.
That's a big whiff hat on my part. Sorry.
Yeah. AAA team, so.
Okay. I just thought it might have been a Redford tribute today, but no. You discovered Raquel Welch when?
I mean, let's see.
Was it Shawshank? Was it before Shawshank?
Was kind of. Probably. I mean, it's just hard to grow up without seeing that poster eventually somewhere, even though it wasn't contemporary to my lifetime. You know the poster, and it's everyone's this is famous. You're well, yeah. I understand why. I can see why, but it just it wasn't something I encountered naturally, I guess, in my media consumption at that age.
Well, it had to take a moment yesterday for, as Red put it, lovely Raquel, with her passing. We're talking spring football, Vogues, and who is going to be the pace car for you with this Nebraska football team this spring? Who's a player or two you think will immediately lead in a new era?
Good question. Because the chalkboard has kind of been wiped clean a little bit just by nature of having a new staff there. It's going to be really interesting to watch. I think Jeff Sims, perhaps Chubba Purdy, in terms of, so much of the game kind of starts with the quarterback, and we know leadership is super important at that position. So I think you sort of naturally go there. I think it would be a good thing for Nebraska if we started to hear someone up front on the offensive line was kind of emerging as that person. I mean, they've got a handful of players up there who played quite a bit of football, and I don't think anybody's been 100% satisfied with how Nebraska has played on the O-line. So that could be potentially a good development. Somebody like Ty Robinson, I think, makes a lot of sense, but he's going to be out, it sounds like. You've got, and also the secondary. And I mean, I kind of lean towards Miles Farmer as maybe the old hand, quote unquote, in that group, even though still relatively early in his football career. But those are some of the guys that come to mind off the top of my head. And then, I mean, you've got your 2 inside linebackers, of course, who have kind of filled that role for you in the past. So I'd expect them to be on that list for me as well.
Yeah, Brandon, are you concerned about the fact that as this Husker team goes through spring ball, it is going to be down some of its at least projected leaders for next season? When you look at Nick Henrich is a guy that's not going to be participating in spring football. Casey Thompson's a guy that's not going to be participating in spring football. It's just there's a list of guys with a lot of experience that aren't going to be participating. And I wonder if that's a concern to you as we just know how important this spring is going to be for guys trying to lock down roster spots and make a good first impression with the coaching staff.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm concerned. You'd certainly rather have them than not have them. So at least then, I mean, these are players like, I assume the coaching staff looks at Nick Henrich and be like, this guy can play some football. Like, we have a good sense of what he is, but you still want to see how it all fits with kind of new coaches, new concepts, new schemes. You can almost with somebody like him, and I would even put Casey Thompson in this group as well, given how much football he's played. Like, you can feel confident that they're going to display some confidence and some leadership, and you can do that to a degree without being able to suit up and participate in practice, certainly. But it kind of adds a wild card of, hey, here's some guys who you'd expect to be major parts of Nebraska in 2023. And you're going to miss this spring session where you're doing a lot of install and really just a lot of kind of team bonding, which, again, they can take part in that to a degree. But, I mean, Matt Rule mentions it almost every time out now about just getting the guys around each other. So it's worth noting for sure.
Brandon Vogel's with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Brandon, we were talking about how this roster will whittle down at some point throughout spring ball, who will stay, who will leave, and we're talking about how many scholarship spots ideally do you see being appropriate for the QB room?
Oh, good question. I think 4's probably, I mean, it's so hard with the transfer portal now to take much for granted, but I think 4's kind of the minimum. 5 seems like if you can keep 5 guys and keep the space between them and kind of keep them all invested and feeling like they have a chance to play at any given time, that feels like a little bit of a luxury. So probably 4.5 might be, if you average it out over a couple of recruiting cycles, et cetera, might be the spot to be at. But you look at it now, and I mean, that's one of those spots. And with 2 injuries, to Casey Thompson and Logan Smothers, it's going to keep them out. Kind of changes that, because if they were available and Nebraska goes into spring with all of its quarterbacks available, I mean, that's a spot that I immediately circle and say, you're just going to have some attrition there. And they might have some attrition there anyway. But it does change kind of the calculus a little bit with last year's starter not being available.
Brendan, when you say 4.5, does that mean 4 full-time quarterbacks and 1 guy who's splitting time between quarterback and fullback? Is that what you mean?
Wow.
Yes, if you can find the vaunted QB fullback combo, you get that. And Nebraska hasn't had to look for one for a while, but it's in the market now. So be keeping an eye on that one.
Wow. Hey, Chubba, love you. You want to put on 60 pounds?
Well, they had a guy.
hell of a combo.
Remember Zach Darlington a couple years ago?
I know.
He's a guy who could have played quarterback and fullback. I know he didn't end up actually playing fullback.
Well, and put this on your Husker bingo card. Johnny Stanton's getting a paycheck from Cleveland as a fullback. And so it happens. They can move spots. Vogues, I want to talk about Kemp here, and his role. We know Alante Brown not on the roster anymore, and he's a guy we were all excited to see continue to progress. It'll just be somewhere else. But Kemp's a big pickup because of his experience and his work ethic. But do you think he's a guy that's a tone setter for that room? You got a lot of talent, and you're also going to have to sift through and have a pecking order.
Yeah, I think he could be, and I think that's something that comes along with the coaching change. You know, under more typical circumstances, I don't know if it's totally fair or maybe the most likely place to go to look for a transfer, particularly a 1-year transfer, come in and be like, okay, I'm here now. I'm just going to take over this room. Doesn't mean it can't happen. But in a case like this, you know, I would have to go back and add up his actual career numbers, but the guy who's caught a lot of footballs. Didn't catch as many in 2022 as he probably would have liked, and injuries played a role in that, but played a lot of football. And when you look at what Nebraska brings back, you kind of don't have that guy that you just point to and say, well, there's the leader of your room. So I think there's an open opportunity for somebody like Kemp to do that. If he's somebody who'd put up all those numbers at Nebraska, we would just go to him by default. So sounds like the early reports on him and his kind of integration into this new program have been positive. So he'll be an interesting one to watch. And he kind of fills a different type of role for Nebraska when you look up at the makeup of that wide receiver room.
Brandon, give me a guy on the offense that, you know, with all the change that's been going down this offseason, all the transfer portal additions that you think might be slipping under the radar in terms of what kind of impact they might have in 2023. And I guess this kind of doubles the question as a guy you're watching in spring ball in 2023 to see how they perform.
I think Gabe Ervin has kind of a good situation in, you know, obviously saw his talent as a true freshman 2 seasons ago, slowed by injury. And in the meantime, Nebraska had 2 guys show up in A.J. Allen and Anthony Grant and be pretty good. So he almost kind of fits the definition of under the radar from that perspective. But he'll be somebody I have a close eye on throughout the offseason, really, not just in spring, because we've seen he's got a lot of tools as a running back. And if they want to run the football as much as they have said that they want to do, the coaches meaning, having 3 backs that can go in and give you those kind of quality snaps certainly isn't a bad thing. It just becomes then divvying them up. And right now, based on this past season, you'd probably go Grant, Allen, Ervin. I'd be surprised if it ends that way by the time we get to the Minnesota game in late August.
Brandon Vogel is with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Vogues, we'll get you out on this. Bit of thought on Ernest Hausman. Was really considering Michigan before Nebraska. Obviously went portaling to Michigan. Michigan's linebacker coach, another part of the Harbaugh staff that mutually parted ways. What does that mean? That he does not have a position coach anymore, or is there more to it?
I mean, I think, as you noted, kind of his interest level in Michigan early on at the point where he, you know, eventually chose Nebraska, I think probably still carries the most weight. Also, Michigan is clearly on a really good run. And, oh, by the way, is also one of the most experienced teams in the country, you know, based on returning production numbers that we've seen so far. So you can step into Michigan, and we all saw with Hausman as a true freshman linebacker in the Big Ten, the guy has a chance to be special. And he's at a place right now that, you know, if you're just picking today, you'd say, well, Michigan's among the front runners to be in the college football playoff again next year. So I think that a lot about what appeals, you know, to not just Hausman, but any player about Michigan right now is still there, even though you're, you know, losing a position coach.
And Elijah just sent me this. Carter Nelson, the pride of Ainsworth, Roll Tide, has just offered him. Vogues, we'll check in on Saturday, bud. Thanks for a few minutes today.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. Big thanks to Brandon Vogel. Joba Chamberlain going to join us in 20 minutes. Get his take and preview on Husker Baseball as they get going in San Diego. We teased it a little bit ago. Carter Nelson out of Ainsworth, just a stand-up kid, super high-level talent. You've had Notre Dame invade. You've had Ohio State kick some tires. Nebraska's spent a lot of time with him. And Carter Nelson getting the offer from the University of Alabama. Now, I would assume it's a committable offer, as good as he's ranked with the tight ends for the upcoming 2024 class. But, man, that is...
It's big time.
Something to smile about. He's also, and I'm looking at Carter's Twitter profile, he's got a 4.5 on a scale of 4.0 in Spanish.
I think you got
Spanish club,
scale.
yes, yeah. Spanish club president. So,
does that help for Alabama? Is that a Spanish?
In any
community?
language, he can say, "I'm open." That's what I'm getting at. But 7-foot high jumper, 6'5", 215. That flex option. So, yeah. Welcome to borderless football. You've seen it more and more with kids in the metros going elsewhere. And rarely did you have a rural kid, not named Scott Frost, escape somewhere else to a Power 5 program. But Carter Nelson's getting a ton of attention. And love watching him play ball and seeing what he does. Nebraska being a dogfight for this guy.
Oh, I mean, they've been in a dogfight for the top in-state recruit, feels like every single year for about the past 5 years. And I guess Thomas Fidone doesn't necessarily count, but Council Bluffs is so close that you almost consider that an in-state battle, especially with the fact that he grew up so close to Nebraska. It just feels like the top recruit in the state of Nebraska, every single year Nebraska is going to be in a dogfight for, because that's the way college football is moving. Last year it's Malachi Coleman. 2 years ago it's Thomas Fidone. 3 years ago it was that linebacker from
Jackson from Burke.
Yes,
went to Oregon.
Yes. And then you had the West Side kid who went off to Minnesota. His name's also escaping me right now, because whenever Nebraska loses the battle, it's out of sight, out of mind now. Who is that kid? The cornerback?
I know who you're talking about.
Avante Dickerson? Is that right?
Avante.
Yeah,
Avante
Dickerson
spanked for not being able to come up with that name.
But that's
Avante
been
is a super talented kid, yes.
And that's been the top in-state kids for the past 4 years in Nebraska. It's been Nebraska in a dogfight. So I don't think Nebraska should be surprised by that moving forward, that the likes of Alabama are coming in for Nebraska's top in-state kid. That's going to keep on happening. It's the way college football is moving, and it's kind of that transfer portal discussion we're having earlier in the week, Schmitty, where, you know what, with the amount of talent evaluation out there, fewer and fewer of these guys are slipping between the cracks. You look at a guy like Carter Nelson, 20 years ago, it's probably a battle between Nebraska, maybe Colorado, and South Dakota State trying to get the likes of this kid. And now it's Alabama's coming to town. Notre Dame's coming to town. That's the effect of the internet. That's the effect of just modern recruiting in college football. These guys don't fly under the radar anymore.
Nope. And they're seen, they're heard. You got huddle film. You've got coaches that are making the stop in Ainsworth. They're making the stop in Scotts Bluff, right? And it is all about not taking for granted your in-state talent, whether it's Omaha, whether it's Lincoln, whether it's Kearney, Columbus, Ernest Hausman, right? I know he's in Michigan, but he was recruited heavy by Michigan, Iowa, Nebraska. So, and it's Nebraska's job to make Nebraska appealing beyond NIL, beyond new head coach and staff and track record. It turns into wins on the field very soon for Nebraska to make these in-state kids, I mean, the families in the town, a lot of instances love Nebraska. They've been supporting Nebraska. But the kids, hey, there's other teams to watch. Oregon's been good. Bama's been Bama. Georgia's Georgia. Kansas, for the love of God. And I'm not knocking KU because I really like Lance and what he does. But Kansas was good. Kansas was ranked last year. K-State just won the Big 12. Missouri, not the success they had when they first jumped to the SEC, but Missouri's keeping all the Missouri kids there.
Now, I've been running into more and more Notre Dame fans around the city of Lincoln than I ever have before.
Because Brian Kelly went to LSU.
That's possible. But it didn't used to be that way. It used to be, I'm a Nebraska fan, and I check and see what Notre Dame does, too. Now I run into more and more people that Notre Dame's my top team. What did Nebraska do last year? Oh, they were bad. Yeah, that's why I watched Notre Dame. I've been hearing that more and more. And
I only had about 3 kids growing up that liked Notre Dame. And I didn't wear a Go Irish shirt around the house, but I liked their national title team with Tony Rice. I loved Rocket Ishmael. I cheered for him every year against Colorado when they played in the Orange Bowl, it felt like. So, but no, Notre Dame's, they've been good, been very good. They've been to the playoff a couple of times. Were you allowed, did you have a Notre Dame fan or buddy? Of course you did in Chicago.
Well, yeah, I grew up all around them. Chicago is Notre Dame West, basically.
A little bit.
It's like there's Notre Dame guys everywhere. I know a handful of people would go there, too, and, they've been good. Obviously, late 2000s, early 2010s, they were pretty bad. But ever since then, they were good. And before that, obviously, they were a juggernaut. So, tons of Notre Dame people. I'm surprised out here that you would see, Notre Dame representation. Not that they're far and few.
I think it's very heavy in Omaha. It's heavy in some pockets in Lincoln, and I had a couple of buddies that would wear the Notre Dame gear. But I had one guy that would love wearing Notre Dame gear and his 49ers hat because he was such a Montana nut. There was that.
And back to the recruiting thing real quick about how do you sell it other than, it's Nebraska.
Well, they can sell it. They can, but they got to show it.
They got this brand new shiny toy that they're about to start practicing in too. I think that's got to be a big selling point there. Obviously, you have the new coach and everything, and the older generation than the players have been watching Nebraska for only God knows how long. But that goes a long way for players right now too, especially because they like the new things. They like. This facility is going to be state of the art. And that's going to, springboard them to the future, I think. That's going to be a huge jump.
Treated like a superstar when you're high school.
Yeah.
We have
facilities and NIL, man.
We have Pete on the line with a great point about recruiting.
All right. Pete, welcome in. Thanks for calling.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pete. We got you now.
I wanted to bring up one point. Yesterday you were talking about the reduction of the walk-on program. One of the disadvantages of reducing the walk-ons is a lot of these kids come from small towns in Nebraska, and I can tell you I'm from a small town. When you have a kid from your town or your area that's walking on down to the University of Nebraska, it keeps the town and the population of the town and the papers and so forth interested in Nebraska football. They follow it, they'll support it. Mm-hmm. And so if we reduce the walk-ons too much, we're going to reduce some of the support, I think, for the university football program through the small towns.
I think it'll be an interesting issue. If they start winning again, you're not going to have that reduction. It's important to get the kids to come to Lincoln that can play and contribute and make the program better. That's what was so great about the walk-on program. And then you'd find some studs and starters from time to time. But, Pete, you're right on. Thanks for the phone call that, there's that connection, that engagement.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, it's this hour anyway, with Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. Thanks for spending time. If you're just checking us out on 101.5 or 1240 a.m. in Lincoln, over on KFOR now, of course, Omaha's ESPN 590 in Omaha, and our friends in Central Nebraska, Kearney, Hastings, Grand Island, great folks, the ESPN Superstation in Columbus, News Talk 900 Columbus, wherever you want to hear us on the air, streaming, as always, with the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle. Give that a follow. Check out Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, mornings, 7 to 10. And, of course, can find and watch the show with Hail Varsity, the YouTube channel, podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, full show, or just specific segments if you want it. We'll hit some Husker hoops Next hour, Joba Chamberlain, Husker great, World Series champ, 10 minutes away. Get his outlook on Big Red Baseball as they are off to San Diego this weekend. And I was hoping to stow away and go to San Diego. Junior's packing his bags with his little friend, and he is off to Arizona to see my mother bright and early tomorrow. He went to the dentist. That could be a nightmare today. That kid has so much candy. I swear at him in my own mind because of his metabolism and what he can eat. And now the dentist has got him.
It's out of your hands now.
It is out of my hands. Get buckled up, hands on the wheel, eyes in mind, straight ahead. The driver has one job, that's to drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. What do you think of Michael Jordan? $10 million to Make-A-Wish. Jordan's turning 60 tomorrow, and he is paying it forward. If anyone has $10 million to throw around, it is Air Jordan himself.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's either one night at the casino for Michael Jordan or a very generous
it's like
donation.
$10 for you and I.
Yeah, a very generous donation to Make-A-Wish Foundation.
On a serious note, though, with MJ and Make-A-Wish, one of the first sports books I really got into was by Sam Smith, The Jordan Rules. Mm-hmm. And that came out right after. It was by chance. Chicago was trying to get over that Pistons hump from 89 to 90, and Detroit had gone back-to-back, and just some great classic battles. Chicago had been around a 500 team. They had hit pay dirt with Pippen, ascending Horace Grant, Bill Cartwright, and John Paxson, along with MJ, and MJ was a little less selfish, trusted his teammates more. They beat the Lakers in 5 to win the first of their first three-peat. But that book chronicles Michael Jordan and his tie with Make-A-Wish, because he's, for a lot of years, him and Muhammad Ali, the most popular athletes in the world, Tiger Woods, of course, now as well. But Jordan would see kids 2 to 3 times a week for Make-A-Wish when the Bulls were doing homestands, and he'd shoot free throws, he'd have lunch with them, he'd hang out, he'd get him seats. And some of those kids ended up being able to enjoy and have a prolonged life. And some of the kids, of course, passed away, which is so sad. But that really touched Michael Jordan's heart, his time with Make-A-Wish. And it was just cool for him to donate money to their fight. Hour 2 on the way. Joba Chamberlain's on the way with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. Husker Hall of Famer and great Major League pitcher, World Series champ Joba Chamberlain with us to talk some Husker baseball as the Big Red get ready to take on San Diego. Joba, I'm a little grayer than you, my friend, but we're just, let us reminisce about school closings with good old LPS when you and I matriculated, Southeast and Northeast. Our kids, bless their hearts, are both at Southwest. What is it was brutal out this morning, so I get school being canceled in Lincoln, but man, I mean, didn't you remember it the same way I did? Walking uphill both ways in 80 feet of snow. I mean, we had to endure that.
Yeah, of course. They never believe it. They forget sometimes that we were kids as well. And I mean, they're getting days off when it's supposed to snow and we get no snow. And then it's like, oh, it's too windy, you can't go to school. It's like, you guys just get made up days off. We went to, it was treacherous. Like we had to, literally fight tooth and nail to get a day off. And now they're canceling it the day before. Mind you, it was 5:30 this morning when we got the email or the phone call. But yeah, it's just, they have it so much easier than we did. It was so much rougher as parents. Maybe one day they'll understand.
Well, they don't even have to watch the morning news anymore and see if the school gets canceled. They just get to check Twitter.
Yeah, on the ticker on the bottom, you'd have to wait for Lincoln Public Schools to go by, and finally you're just like, I'm awake now. I can't go back to sleep, but I'm going to try.
The best Sports Center commercial ever. I mean, aside from Charlie Steiner with the tie around his head and a lamp saying, follow me to freedom, Y2K, was this 70s type shoot where a kid runs into the kitchen, the morning radio's on KFOR, and no school today. And the kid like freaks out, starts jumping and chest bumping his older brother. And then they flash forward. Yeah, it's a lot like that when they were promoting the NHL playoffs.
I'm gonna argue that Sports Center commercial, because I think one that tops that is when Stuart Scott and Scott Van Pelt are in the cafeteria and they see Arnold Palmer making Arnold Palmer.
Yes, that's good. It would have been better if it would have been John Daly making John Daly's. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I don't order Arnold Palmer's. I order John Daly's, man.
Especially if you're golfing.
I gotta have it. It's Amen juice. Joba Chamberlain's with us, but yeah, give me the sweet tea, the lemonade, and probably a double of vodka. That's the way it goes. That's how it has to be. But so there's no truth to the rumor you had built snowmen, a little infield, and then a snowman at home plate, and you were just going high and tight this morning on the snowman you made.
No, I don't think there's not enough moisture to make good snowballs yet. So I did put the carrot in the wrong spot, though.
Good old Dumb and Dumber. Joba Chamberlain's with us. Joba, what's your feel, man? Husker Baseball, a lot of excitement. You've got new faces. You have old faces. Max Anderson, Emmett Olson, Bryce Matthews, preseason All Big Ten. Huskers pegged 5th preseason by the Big Ten powers that be. How you feeling about this squad and Coach Bolt?
It was good. Carter had a chance to go to a camp a few weeks ago and got a chance to sit and talk with all of them. And it's just, the outlook and the attitude, it felt different. It felt different with the aspect of, what they have and the guys coming in. And if you see the way that they've done it, it's usually been a lot of younger kids, freshmen, sophomores, but a lot of the new faces, we got an older group that came in that I feel like knows how to win, and guys coming back that have been in that situation. And, I think obviously kind of what we touched on last year every week when we talked about this is like, health it sounds cliche to say, but if we can stay healthy, we got a chance. I mean, it just, that hurt us so much last year in the aspect of, just not being able to find a rhythm and a consistency with who we were putting out there. So, the energy felt great, and, just the attitudes of obviously, we got a great coaching staff, and, and I think Rob, being more comfortable in what he's doing, and just to see his demeanor, it was kind of really cool because he actually threw BP to Carter, and like his mannerisms and everything was the same. And his daughter came in with her daughter, and we were watching, her dad, my son, and she looks at me and she goes, "Does this look familiar?" Talking about her daughter. I was like, "Yeah, that was you when I was here." And she just smiled and laughed. Yeah. So I think just the culture and the dynamic that we have right now, and the energy that I felt just being there as a dad watching their son with the coaching staff is, I think we're going to do some special things this year.
Joba Chamberlain's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio, talking some Husker baseball. And Joba, let's talk pitching. It's a new look starting pitching rotation for the Huskers on their opening weekend, and it's a bit of a two-part question. First, I want to get your take on freshman Caleb Clark. He's coming down from Ontario, Canada, and he's going to be the Sunday starter in his debut as a Husker, as a true freshman. First, I want to get your thoughts on that, and then also, what are you going to be watching for this weekend from the starting pitching to see if it's at least successful in your eyes?
Well, he's used to this weather, so now he's going out to warm weather, so he's going to be a little culture shock there. But no, I think it's the consistency and getting ahead early in counts, not getting deep in the counts, going deep into the game. It's, always these early tournaments it's such a feel of like where guys are going to fall into place and put him into situations. And I love him, coming in as a true freshman to be able to like, hey, there's no better way to learn. And be who you want to be than to get out there and do it. And, there's going to be some tough competition out there. It's going to be, it's early, or, we haven't been outside that much. And that's always a thing when they talk about it. It's like, that's an aspect of seeing a fly ball. It's just something that you have to get outside and do. And it'll be a good test, but I think just from the first week, and you can't look so much into it, but it's just the fact if they can give us, 5-6 good innings and keep a decent pitch count and, just attack the zone and, early count contact, it's when the 1-1 counts, change the dynamic of the at bat. Now it's 1-2 instead of 2-1. And therefore it's just, those little things that people may not look at. Let's win those battles. Let's win the little ones, because then at the end of the day, we're going to be on the big win side if we do the little things well on the mound.
Joba, a thought on Emmett Olson and what you like about his stuff and how can he be what he needs to be as that Friday night guy?
It's an attitude thing too. It's like there's going to be days you don't have your stuff, and he has stuff. Like he can change speeds, locates, and he's got arm side run. And I think it's having the attitude of like, if you're a Friday night guy, like there has to be a little chip here. Like there has to be, and that's just the way it is. And you just got to go compete, because there's going to be days you don't have your stuff, and then there are going to be days where, you're hitting every corner, you're elevating, you're burying balls when you need to. And it's just, I think, to understand what that role is on Friday night is like you have to have that dog in you. And, some people show it on their sleeves. Some people it's just, I go show you with my stuff. And I think there needs to be a little bit of both, and I think he has the opportunity to do it.
Joba, when you look at this first weekend series as a whole, when you open this season, you're getting into warm weather for the first time, learning a lot about your team. Really their first chance to be playing competitively outdoors in a long time. Do the wins and losses matter this weekend, or is it more about how the team comes together?
I think it's a culmination of all of it, because if the results aren't there, there's obviously we're going to see what happens. But I think there's always going to be positives. There's always going to be negatives, and then that's in any aspect. But, this first one is just getting getting your feet in the dirt, having those situations where it's second and third in the fifth inning, there's 2 outs. We need to make a pitch, or, we need a guy to make a big play. And it's just results do matter in that aspect, because, nobody wants to lose. We all know that. But I think it's doing the common things uncommonly well and just building and building and building, and then putting it all together and doing it and making a run where this team can and should do.
Joba Chamberlain with us, previewing Nebraska baseball. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Max Anderson, such a talent, and went through some stuff last year, just himself getting into just maybe trying a bit too hard, right? Wanting it too badly. And we've all been there for different things, you guys on a much larger scale. And touch on that for a moment, if you could, just kind of finding that piece or that sweet spot where you're amped to go kick butt and take names, but not letting it overwhelm you. And that's the tightrope you have to walk.
Well, coming into his sophomore year after what he did his freshman year, everybody was like, oh, he can only get better. And I don't care what you say, whether you're a professional, whether you're in college, whether you're a little leaguer. You hear it enough, you start drinking the Kool-Aid. And that's the nature of the beast. And, when that happens, it's like, oh, shoot, I didn't, I went 0 for 11 this series. Like that's, and it's so funny, because the people that talk about it and this, that, and another thing, they forget we're harder on ourselves than other people are. So it's not like this game is set up to fail anyways. And when you add that pressure too, especially after coming off his freshman campaign and all the accolades, and then coming into, preseason, this, that, and another thing, where now it's like, okay, I've got to be that guy. That's what I set my standards to. And it's not a bad thing. It's like, hey, your first impression is your most lasting. And his freshman year, he comes on and does what he does. And it was special. But then it's like, okay, now he's got to get better and better. And then you start forcing and pushing. And then, like you said, Schmidt, is like, that's that tightrope that you have to like, okay, do I teeter-totter? Do I give a little bit more? And sometimes when that happens, and I tell everybody this, sometimes less is more because you keep pressing and pressing. It's like, I would tell dudes, we'd be in September and they would be doing 10, 15 sprints. And I'm like, you're not allowed to come out here. Like, sit in the clubhouse. We've been going since January, and technically there's really no off season. Mm-hmm. So go sit your butt, make a sandwich, put your feet up. And I think that's sometimes, especially with kids right now trying to get to the next level and what they want, that's that tightrope where they feel like if they're not doing something, they're not getting better. But in reality, sometimes it's take a step back, take a deep breath. You got here for a reason. You know you're good enough to do it. You don't need to go take 900 swings because you went 0 for 8. That's going to happen. And I just think that's the understanding of, like, you don't always have to be doing something. And I think, just watching some of his at-bats and, like, he's a grinder in at-bat. He was swinging, getting out early. And I think he was pressing. And that's the time where it's like, you know what? I'm just going to kick back. I'm going to order a pizza and watch a movie and just hang out. Like, I'm not going to do anything. And it's finding that balance and that tightrope of, do you wind it up? Do you slow it down? Do you let it go? And I think now that he's been in kind of both situations, I think what he has planned for himself and what we all as fans see in him, I think will come to fruition for sure.
So, Joba, it sounds to me like you're not one of those guys that believes in superstitions in order to break a slump.
Live chicken.
Oh, no. Nope, definitely not saying that. Like, no, for sure. I definitely believe in that. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Derek Jeter on Fallon, but yeah, he wore the golden thong. And that definitely, I definitely had done the same. Not on skin, no chance. There's a special few that do that, and I won't name any names. And but yeah, no, get dressed the same way, eat the same thing, like, yeah. But when it comes to like actually doing it, like, I follow through. Like, I would always put my right shoe on first. I'm always that guy. But yeah, there'd be times where it's like, all right, I'm not going to go out and do anything. I'm literally just going to take a day and just chill, not do anything, and then I'll literally play catch. And if I get called into the game, I got called into the game, and it's just kind of a reset button.
Joba Chamberlain's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Joba, last thought, your take on chemistry and what it can do for a ball club, just how it's talked about in all sports, but it's been really emphasized by Coach Bolt and the crew for this season.
I mean, it's huge. It's hold each other accountable. It's when you have great leaders, it starts from the top. And they have great leaders in that coaching staff, and they understand how to win. They know what it takes to win. They've all done it. And I think that will show in the clubhouse and on the field where, they police themselves. They understand. And it's when you feel like you go to the yard every day and it's just like you're looking forward to somebody, they're going to do something stupid, or, he's going to laugh, or he's going to tell a story about how he got up in the middle of the night and peed in the closet or something, just something where you look forward to each and every day of being around your brothers and just having fun. And every successful team that I've ever been on, it was always that relationship. You always had the vocal leader. You always had the guy that went about it where, quietly, and you just watched him and you seen how he went about his work. And then you had, there's so many different personalities, but they all gel together. I mean, we've all seen, you're around somebody enough, there's the ticks and tats and fights and this, that, and other thing. But that's being competitive and that's being around. But I think what they have and just the climate and the culture of what they've created, I think that clubhouse is going to translate so much onto the field and to know what these young men can do on that field, and we'll see it.
I got to follow up. Who was the worst closet peer you've played with?
Andrew Brown. That was easy.
Everybody's closet? I mean, was he a serial peer?
No, he literally he would get up and literally he thought he was in the bathroom and it'd literally be in a closet.
Yeah, I actually know a guy like that. My buddy Crew. Yeah,
he's still your buddy, huh?
Oh, he did it in the tent one time while we were out camping, and we about lost it on him. But it's a very real thing. It's a very real problem in America. People who are in the closet and think they're in the bathroom.
Seriously, it's like I kind of picture it like sleepwalking.
It's similar. It's you wake up like half awake and you think the closet is the bathroom. You're like not fully there, half asleep still.
Pulled the hamper once or twice, but that was after O Street. You know?
Have you burnt your mouth at Lazari's?
Pretty much, yeah. It was good, though. It was worth it. It wasn't my hamper. Joba Chamberlain with us. Joba, good to see you, man. Thanks for jumping on. We'll do this again soon, partner.
Sounds good. Thanks, boss.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good stuff from Joba Chamberlain. Open phones here till 6. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Numbers to get in, couple of different ways. 402-489-1240.
New
and old phone number. 402-489-1240. 402-489-1240. Or wherever you hear us across the Hail Varsity Network, 1-800-825-5865. You're allowed to watch the show. You can hear it, of course, on the radio, but can stream at KFOR, Twitter and Facebook, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio, and the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Can submit some questions there. We'll get back to some football questions, but Husker Basketball. Fred has captured Husker Nation. This team is beloved. They are riding high. They have won 3 of 4. They're coming back. They've had a chance to exhale and regroup. Big Bad Fear the Turtle Maryland comes in for a 4 o'clock tip on Sunday. Sam Greasel saying, let's recreate No Sit Sunday. There's going to be good weather. And people are either in, they're feeling it, or there's that classic Nebraska basketball fan that is afraid. They are afraid, not because they're not proud of the team or they have not enjoyed the team. They're afraid to get hurt. And it's happened a lot. The curse of, we'll say, Richard Van Polgeest. All right? Google him sometime, Connor. You'll get a kick out of it. He was Drago before Drago. I loved watching him growing up. But listen. You have Steph Curry's retweeting Tominaga. You have the journey. Tominaga's connected. He's being championed. He's been awesome. And this team is surprised. 2 weeks ago, I didn't think they'd win. I was surprised when they won. Don't doubt their effort and their heart, but sometimes that doesn't pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And right now, they've been paying the bills. Walker's been great. Griesel's been great. You've got... this team's overcome, and you are excited about that. And I think they can get Maryland, partly because Maryland's not good on the road. They owe them. Maryland kind of bullied them. It took a little time for Nebraska to react the right way, and then they made it a game and ended up falling by double digits. But I don't know, you buy it or you fading Sunday. And let's be just clear, it's not the same context with Frank the Tank and number 1 seed Wisconsin coming in with No Sit Sunday. That year when Timmy and the crew went to the tournament, they also had a top 10 road win at Sparty. Nebraska, though, the way they're finishing, this is more than a coincidence. The teams get better. Those that buy in get better. They develop. And Nebraska is getting downhill. Are you guys... Are you thinking beyond Sunday? Are you thinking, dare I utter it, NIT? or do you just want me to hit the brakes right
Hey, I'm
now?
still thinking NCAA tournament, baby. Where's your hope?
You are all about 83 and reenacting the mad dash of Jimmy V to go hug people. You're a hugger.
Hey,
if
if you don't set your sights high, what's the point?
So just win out.
Went out 4-0.
I mean, Elijah.
Hey, finish the year 4-0, get 3 wins in the Big Ten
Jake
tournament.
Taylor
That's
moment.
easy.
Just go win the whole bleeping thing.
Exactly. Exactly. It's out there. It's there for the taking.
You set your bar that high, your hopes that high, you're going to be crushed and crying.
That's the point of being a Husker fan, isn't it? Having all your hopes crushed and defeated. Maybe I'm just born in the wrong century.
That's not how. It's not back in my day. That's not how I grew up. I saw big wins in March. I saw a run at Kemper. I saw Nebraska football win national champion. I saw it. Sorry, repeated history. My fault, but. I just think that's a lot to ask. I think they can start, though, with a win. Mm-hmm. And it can happen on Sunday. I know
it's all about the next one.
Place is going to be jacked, and where's Maryland's headspace right now? I know they hook up with Purdue. Maybe Purdue will hand them a swift AK, and Maryland's like, yeah, we're in. Who cares between a 7 and 10 seed?
Yeah, I mean, any team that is playing Purdue this year is going to give them their best, obviously, just because Purdue's been the top dog for the majority of the year. And you saw that on Sunday against Northwestern, too. But I think Sunday...
Connor smiles.
Yeah.
You didn't say my Northwestern, but you wanted to.
No. I only say my about how the DePaul Blue Demons on the show. How about that? But I think that Nebraska can win on Sunday. And then, and I know we're talking NIT right now, I think if they win Sunday,
we're just talking at IT.
We're just talking. Hey, comparative. That's a big deal, right?
Oh, it's huge.
It's a big deal.
It's still too soon, man. I'm gonna be the guy in the elevator that makes everyone's eyes water. Sorry, that's what I'm gonna do right now.
Are you gonna give me a dirty look if I say that Sunday they win? The NIT talk is real. Is real.
Very much so, because you're back to 500.
I think it's real. If they get 2 out of 3 on this homestand, that you got to get into the Big Ten tournament at 500 at least. I think to be considered
3-1 finish probably.
It's a possibility,
and they get a round 1 win at the United Center.
Yeah, they have to get a win in the Big Ten tournament, which is something that this team I think is capable of. Now, obviously, away from PBA, okay. How good are they? I know they just picked up a win against Rutgers, but at PBA, and again, the next 3 are there, you're 9-3. That's pretty good, projecting home court this year, especially.
Meanwhile, Elijah's getting his red dancing shoes ready.
I mean, I wish I was right there with
this
you.
This NIT is beneath us, is what Elijah's thinking.
I think the tournament, the NIT tournament talk is real. I really do.
Yeah, well,
and it is a possibility.
And they can misstep Sunday, but they need to beat Maryland because of what Maryland is.
Correct.
And they're playing too well. Who's with us?
Yeah, Steve on the line.
Steve, thanks for hanging on. Go ahead.
Hey, my money's on Creighton. Been a fan for 50 years. Sorry, guys. Just like Jeff Moats. And
we might have to kick you off the show right now.
You keep going. I don't care that you're a Creighton fan. Go for it.
Just sulk in the corner there. And one real quick thing about Joba. My late brother used to go to school with his dad.
Okay.
At Whittier and Lincoln High, I believe. And his dad was kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. Kind of a trickster. He had a cane and he'd trip people. What?
He was a prankster?
Yeah. Trickster, prankster. He had a cane and he'd trip people and then pull the cane back and then look around and, people, he'd never get in trouble.
Well played, sir.
That was then, this is now. Hey, in case I oversleep tomorrow, happy birthday.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Steve,
bye.
Take care. Appreciate the phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was... I was waiting for you to say to Steve, Creighton fan, wait till next year.
Oh, no.
Creighton fan, wait till next year.
Yeah.
There,
because you really can't say it that often. But, Steve, thanks for the phone call, 489-1240 or
with what I know
800-825-5865.
What I know about Joba, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Prankster?
Just a guy, a fun-loving guy.
Yep, good dude.
Fun-loving guy, good
had
dude.
fun with him. That'll be on the podcast. Had him kick off hour 1. So we're talking Nebraska, and clearly Elijah's buying and not fading Nebraska. Connor will buy and not fade Nebraska if they win on Sunday. I'm just holding. I am not going to make a move. I need to see more from Nebraska basketball. Not anything against Fred, not against this team. I love their effort, their energy, what they're doing. I just wait for it to go sideways.
Well, I think more for me right now, and I'm totally on your page. You need to see more from this group and improvement.
Because they're doing, quite frankly, superhuman things.
Well, exactly. Because if they win Sunday, how many Husker fans did you think were going to look at their record and be, hey, we're in mid to late February, and the record is 500, and and it's 7-10 in the Big Ten too.
We were talking 2 weeks ago. Is this Husker basketball team going to win another game this year?
I know.
And 3 weeks ago it was Fred Watch.
Exactly.
And I'm glad it's no longer Fred Watch. There's still games left. We're at Rosie's coming up the 28th of February. Road show Tuesday in front of Nebraska, Michigan State. It's always special when Sparty comes to town. Of course, thoughts, prayers, and love to Michigan State, what they're going through. It's always fun to see Sparty come to town and Coach Izzo talk to his security people, point out that blonde woman, which is my wife. And he actively tries to avoid her, and he should. Jokes aside, Sparty coming to town's another big one. Northwestern, are you sold on them, Elijah? Are you sold on them, Connor? Who else are you buying? Who else are you fading in the Big Ten? I know Indiana's been not what they need to be on the road, but they've protected home. So to me, I think Indiana's your second best team in the Big Ten. I know statistically, Indiana and Northwestern are right there. Northwestern's the number 2 team. Purdue's great, and they play great, and they take tough shots. I think Illinois can flip it on. I think Iowa's a hell of a good team. I think Sparty will get downhill, assuming they can come back from this emotionally. And I think Rutgers hangs in to get in. And I think Penn State is in real trouble. Mm-hmm. I think they are in real trouble. Northwestern's reacted and separated themselves. Northwestern's had a great week.
They've had a record-breaking week. They've never beaten 4 ranked teams in a single season ever. They accomplished that last night with a win over Indiana. You know the answer to that question for me. Yes, Northwestern is legitimate this year. They have a chance to break the regular season win total, and they've already tied the Big Ten win total in a single season as well. So, and they still have 5 games left. So they're a lock for the tournament. They were for me before last night. They are even more so now.
My team I'm selling, and no bias here whatsoever as we move into NCAA tournament season.
Maryland.
That's good. I wasn't where I was going. I was going to Iowa. Iowa's been on a bit of a tear recently. They've been kind of hitting their stride, playing how they were expected to play whenever the conference slate opened. But it's Iowa, and once the NCAA tournament rolls around, Iowa's going to find a way to absolutely screw things up. So they're a team that I'm selling as being a team that probably sneaks their way into the tournament. And that Nebraska-Iowa game could be huge at the end of the year for Iowa's tournament chances. Mm-hmm. So circle that one.
I don't like that payback possibility. You hold them to 50 here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they needed to get off some sort of cement they're stuck in.
And they always shoot the lights out at Carver Hawkeye.
They do.
Yeah.
Purdue's leading at Maryland 6-4.
Barn burner, wow.
4.5 minutes in. Yeah, no kidding. We'll dive back into some Husker football, some Husker baseball thoughts. Preseason projections are out. Do you agree? Numbers to get in at 489-1240.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back to you. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. Good to have you in. Some buy or fade, talking Husker basketball and how big Sunday will be with Maryland coming to town. Nebraska tries to make it. Man, when's the last time they cranked out 3 basketball wins in a row in Big Ten play? It had to be the tournament team. It had to be the 2018 season where they finished 10-6.
Yeah, the Roby years where I go.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's correct.
That's the final year of Tim Miles, I believe that was, wasn't it?
Second to last
year of Tim Miles.
Yep. Nope. That's where I go to, and they was robbed 10-6, not getting in the Big Ten. Down Big Ten that year, but not that down. In my humble opinion.
Think about how good that team could have been if Isaiah Roby knew how good he could have been.
Just stop. I knew you were going there. That is not expired, okay? It's burned into our brains and eyes and ears with BTN. No. Husker Baseball, where are they at? Where are they at? They are 5th.
Scott roasted you in the comments. We need a double take on that one.
It's what? 17 degrees outside.
Scott
There's
says
87 feet of snow.
I'm all of a sudden glad I didn't wear a hat to this today.
For those listening over the radio, Scott chimes in and says that Marvin the Martian wants his helmet back in reference to the stocking cap that Chris is wearing today. And I see the resemblance now.
It's not as tight. You have a gray one on too, but yours is Carhartt.
I was going to say, why isn't he getting roasted?
Product placement.
They make the best stuff.
It's good.
Love me some Carhartt. And Von Miller, spokesperson for Carhartt, is kind of what put me on.
Now, to the point of wearing what you wear, you were wearing Carhartt before it became the next run of North Face or Patagonia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they just make good stuff. Everyone knows Carhartt makes good stuff. And I guess coming from my dad, my grandpa both work in construction, that it...
Well, no, you're wearing it. You're wearing your coveralls.
Kind of passed down, yeah.
Yeah, it's timeless. Exactly. Scott, thank you for the Martian helmet. So we're going to talk baseball. 5 rub you wrong. Is it the card that you can play all season long? You're going to have self-motivation if you're Nebraska baseball because of what last season was versus what it was supposed to be. Now you're 5th. Your preseason 5, you'll have 3 players that are preseason all Big Ten. Why not? Will Bolt's great at motivating. Will Bolt's great at figuring out what's gone wrong. And last year it was chemistry. Last year a lot of it was mental. And fellas, most of it was injury. Quinn says we need more Connor Clark takes. Family member?
Oh, no, just a friend.
Okay.
Hi,
Quinn, well done.
Thanks for watching.
Yes. So Nebraska baseball, 5th, 3rd, behind Iowa, behind Illinois, right in front of Indiana.
With the amount of fan support and just attention this Husker baseball team gets, you'd think anything is possible in a Husker baseball season. You kind of look back to 2 years ago as being the prime example of that, where I don't think anyone was expecting Nebraska to have this kind of season that they did with potential to go host a regional. And I know you had to go down and face Arkansas, but that was the Husker
awesome.
baseball season in a long time.
That was juice. That was so good.
Nobody saw a season like that coming before the season started. And that's the fickle nature of baseball, is especially college baseball, is, you know what, you can get 2 or 3 guys on your team that can just get hot for a season, and that can carry, or you can get a pitcher that gets hot for a season, and wow, you pretty much guarantee yourself a win every single Friday night, and that's going to guarantee yourself a lot of success in the Big Ten. So, I mean, that's, whenever you talk about starting pitching, that's kind of what this season comes down to me, because I think there's enough hitting in this lineup, enough returning experience through the order, enough I don't want to call it hype, but enough high-level guys that they've brought in to add to that lineup. I think the question to me becomes, what can the starting lineup do this weekend? It's a new-look starting lineup. What does Emmett Olson look like setting the table on Friday night for a weekend series? What do the 2 new guys look like on Saturday and Sunday? Because if you can expect 6 or 7 quality innings out of those guys every single weekend, and that's a tall order to ask, but if you can expect that from those guys, that, you know what, even if our offense isn't playing poorly, our pitcher is going to make it into the 6th inning. He's going to make it into the 7th inning. He's going to keep us in this ball game. I think the Husker baseball team has a chance to go out and win the Big Ten, and I know that's lofty aspirations, but with what kind of experience this pitching staff has, I mean, Wichita State transfer has been in the rotation for a couple of years. Emmett Olson we got to see last year, and he looked really good. And then probably the best baseball player in Canada coming out to come be your Sunday starter. There's potential there. What can this starting pitching do this season? That's the question to me, because I think that's where the Huskers, not just the starting pitching staff, but kind of the pitching as a whole, kind of let the team down last season. And then, whenever the pitching was going, the offense wasn't going. When the offense was going, the pitching wasn't going. And last season just became a mess that way. So do you have a pitching staff that can set the tone for your team? And can the hitters know, you know what, even if we're not getting things going through the first 6 innings of this game, we know we have a pitching staff that's going to give us a chance in the late innings?
That's what it is. Is your middle relief going to be reliable if your offense isn't going? Is your injury situation going to be bearable this year? And from an offense, Connor, I mean, Nebraska, I don't know what their power is going to be like, but it needs to be more consistent power. It's hard to string extra base hits around. You had a lot of stranded runners. You had a lot of ball players that were part of one-score losses. Sorry, football fan.
Well, simply put, not to jump on Connor, your power hitting is not bolt ball. I think it's it was them playing to their strengths last year.
But it is college baseball.
I think power hitting was the team's strength last year, and that says something considering the power numbers weren't necessarily there last year. It's still their strength.
They had timely power hitting the roadie to Arkansas. That year they had timely power hitting.
But that was not what that team was built on. It was built on singles and doubles, getting some steals here and there, not getting thrown out on the base paths, just advancing the duck on the pond. Getting him around to score. I don't think Will Bolt wants a team that relies on the home run or the extra base gapper to score their runs. That's not what he wants. That's not the type of baseball team that he's constructed through his coaching career.
Well, and you mentioned the bullpen too. How much support can you get from that group? Because it's nearly impossible to be successful in the sport of baseball without a good bullpen, right? Because a lead doesn't matter if it's just going to be given up later in the game. And I think by the time Nebraska plays their home opener come March 7th against Northern Colorado, you're already going to know a ton about this team, because obviously the 4-game trip against San Diego to open the year, then you play 3 at South Alabama, you go up to Minnesota, and, well, the competition doesn't get any easier there because you play Vanderbilt, Hawaii, and Ole Miss, all 3 in a row. So you're going to know a ton about this team, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. Hopefully they're healthy throughout all of that. Obviously, as you mentioned earlier, Chris, about the injuries early on in the season kind of screwed things up from the get-go. But, I mean, if this team can have success, especially in a road trip like this to open up the year, San Diego was a good team last year. They were 37-20, and they beat some really good competition as well. So it's going to be a great test to open up the year. And when they come back to Haymarket Park, you're going to know this identity of this team, and you'll have a much better picture of where they'll finish in the grand scheme of things in the Big Ten.
And same with a good point on Twitter, tweets at me, at Herbel, and says, don't forget how deep the bullpen's going to be. Shanneman, Jake Buns, Kyle Perry, guys that you thought could have been in the starting lineup. They're now resigned to the bullpen, which I think A, says something about the starting lineup this season, what they think they have there, but B, just how important a bullpen is going to be. You got a lot of experienced arms in that bullpen.
I want to see Buns back. I loved what he did against Arkansas. I mean, he was feeling it, and he got squeezed that game. We'll wind down a Thursday. It's Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, it's Hail Varsity. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Big thanks to Joba Chamberlain and, of course, Brandon Vogel. Tomorrow we'll have a little bit of an excerpt from our sit-down with Gary Barnett. Also time with Brady Oltmans from Hail Varsity. Bill Dolman, before he heads off to see the boss, and Bruce Springsteen. I don't know who's going to have the better weekend, Bruce getting to see Dolman or Dolman getting to see Bruce. But I'm sure pleasantries will be exchanged. Nick, with this, we were talking basketball a little earlier. Get a kick out of this. Was Danny Nee shady? Why was he fired? Danny was creative. Okay? I love Danny Nee. When I was in college, Danny Nee brought to me and my college radio buddies in Avery Hall. He brought a 6-pack of Budweiser Tall Boys and joined us on the air.
What year of college was this?
Oh, he was there, and I think he was done in 99, 2000 or 2000, because I think Collier started 2000, 2001. But Danny, much like Tim, got hosed. They finished 4th in the Big 12.
Oh, wait, let's backstep for a second. That means that would have been your freshman or sophomore year of college.
No, I had 3 freshman years. I was fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was old enough.
Okay.
He wasn't.
That was the question.
No. Danny was not my buyer, if that's what you're asking.
I'd say that sounds pretty shady to me.
No. Danny lived in a world in the Big 8 where you had Oklahoma that sometimes missed the NCAA tournament, and it wasn't because of performance, right? Kansas got put on probation. Larry Brown coached there, for God's sake. Okay? If Larry Brown's at your school, the NCAA's coming after you. Sorry. Missouri. Now, Danny Nee was great. He got Nebraska to the NCAA tournament 4 years in a row in 5 years. And Danny Nee and Bill Byrne probably would still punch each other in the face. They did not like one another. Okay? And that's that. And quite honestly, for the job that Danny did, and wasn't getting a bump that he should have got, you routinely finishing, I know it was the Big 8 and then the Big 12, but he was finishing top 5 in that league. He'd beat Kansas pretty routinely. Not every year, but he'd split more times than not. Danny was intense, and he recruited NBA guys, and Danny also let them go do their thing. No, Danny Nee and Bill Byrne were the issue. One was the boss, one was the coach, and I think Danny maybe flirted with Rutgers, and that didn't do so well for Bill Byrne, and that was that. He was dismissed. Was he shady? No more so than a lot of guys trying to make it in the Big 8, Big 12. I'm not trying to get sued here. I don't have any evidence of him being shady. I love Danny Nee.
I think that's a good way to wrap the show today.
Yeah. Now, Danny's the best, man. Yep. I can't do the Danny impersonation justice, but yeah, we'll take Bud Heavy. Talk to you tomorrow at 4. Not Hail Varsity. Thanks for tuning in.